Ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of your weekday program, The Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Nancy Sarah Barakat. Discussions tonight will be all about the Palestinian cause, which has been occupying our minds for decades, but has recently witnessed inexplicable developments and violations from the Israeli side. The most recent news saw Palestinian leaders denounce two controversial Israeli-drafted bills, one authorizing illegal settlements, the other silencing calls to prayer, threatening to take the issues United Nations Security Council. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a key backer of the bills that limit the volume of calls for prayer from mosques, a proposal that government watchdogs have called a threat to religious freedom. Following the decision, hundreds of Palestinian Muslims and Christians alike in Israel and the occupied Jerusalem, West Bank and the Gaza Strip demonstrated against the bill, while all Palestinian churches in Nazareth carried the Islamic call for Friday noon prayers. The other bill, which authorizes illegal settlements, has been met by rebuke from key Israeli ally, the United States, which described it as an unprecedented and troubling step. For its part, France, one of the main supporters of the peace process, said the action was of a matter of deep concern and jeopardizes a two-state solution. Meanwhile, Cairo said to host and sponsor a national dialogue between different Palestinian political factions. On Wednesday, Egypt's General Intelligence Chief Khalid Fawzi received in a Cairo meeting the Secretary General of Palestinian Islamic Jihad Movement, Ramadan Challa. Fawzi said that the Palestinian cause remains a priority for Egyptian foreign policy, stressing on Egypt's keenness on the unity of Palestinian forces, as well as its support to all efforts related to achieving the independence of the Palestinian people. How do my guests view the most recent developments around Palestine? How do they evaluate Egypt's efforts to reach reconciliation? And how do they see the future of a two-state solution after Netanyahu's rejection of the peace talks in Paris? That's what we're going to be discussing in detail later on in the program. But as always, we like to shed more light on other topics making headlines here in the country, and today we're taking a look at an interview that was held with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Portuguese media that saw him praise US President-elect Donald Trump, and said he expected greater engagement in the Middle East and from his administration. President el-Sisi said he personally respects and appreciates Trump, adding that he believed that President-elect will be more vigorously engaged with the issues of the region. The Egyptian leader also said that President-elect Trump has shown deep and great understanding of what is taking place in the region as a whole and what is taking place in Egypt. And to tell us more, we are being joined now over the phone by Mr. Ambassador Rafat Al-Ansari, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, madam.
I just wanted to know what you make of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's recent statements towards the new president-elect.
Well, as a matter of fact, a lot of experts, foreign relations experts, they were thinking that the Donald Trump foreign policy will be a type of tsunami, especially in the hot areas like Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Libya, Iran, the Palestinian cause, Israel, especially that Trump himself was having a very hard-line positions in those areas, especially vis-a-vis Iran. But what I wanted to say that for the Middle East cause, it is already not in a first priority or second or third or fourth priority within Obama's time. Obama failed already to push and fulfill the solution of the two states. He failed to stop Israel from building settlements. He failed from stopping Israel to make Jerusalem as the Jewish city and the eternal capital for Israel. Trump himself already promised to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, but let me tell you, this is really since Ronald Reagan in 1981, every single candidate is trying to get some of the Jewish lobby influence and votes, and they are promising the same thing without fulfilling it. When it comes to reality, it is different. As for the Egyptian-American relationship and the latest statements of President Sisi, let me tell you that the positive signs were already since the first meeting a couple of months ago.
Right.
It was a very positive meeting. I heard Trump myself talking about President Sisi, that the strong man, that they have a common cause. This common cause is fighting terrorism, and especially ISIS and or Daesh and the radical political Islam and different militias.
Indeed.
But definitely it was a smart move from President Sisi to congratulate already President Trump, one of the first presidents to congratulate him. The chemistry between the two characters is very highly motivated,
right.
But we shouldn't, and as President Sisi said, we have to give him the chance of the first 100 days. That's normally what every
Ambassador Rafat, if you'll allow me, obviously the statements were made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Portuguese media. He is now in Portugal for the first visit in 24 years by an Egyptian head of state. What do you think are going to be the most important aspects of this historic visit? The
most important aspects of what?
Of his visit to Portugal.
Well, Portugal is one of the very good, strong columns within the European Union. European Union is facing a lot of problems of dismantling right now. They are trying to capture whatever left. This is a good move for the good time for the Egyptian president to go to Portugal and just to let them feel that they are not neglected. They are not the number 2 or 3 countries in the European Union, which means that European Union is not only Germany, France, and Italy. So it is important. Portugal is a Mediterranean country, and we are sharing a lot of economic and political causes. So it is a good move for President Sisi to go right now for this particular country in this particular time.
All right. I thank you very much for your insights. Ambassador Rafat Al-Ansari, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for the first report for this evening and a closer look at Egypt's efforts to reach Palestinian reconciliation. And then I'll be back with my distinguished guests here in the studio.
Egypt's General Intelligence Chief told the Palestinian Jihad delegation on Wednesday during a meeting that Cairo is ready to host and sponsor a national dialogue between different Palestinian political forces. On Wednesday, General Intelligence Chief Khalid Fawzi received in a Cairo meeting the leading Palestinian organization's Secretary General Ramadan Chala. Both sides discussed developments related to the Palestinian cause, where he updated Fawzi on the organization's efforts and suggestions for a Palestinian reconciliation. Fawzi said that the Palestinian cause remains a priority for Egyptian foreign policy, stressing on Egypt's keenness on the unity of Palestinian forces, as well as its support to all efforts related to achieving the independence of Palestinian people. The Egyptian official mentioned the opening of the Rafah border with Gaza for humanitarian relief and said there will be further efforts undertaken by the Egyptian side. Chala and his accompanying delegation talked of the circumstances that the Palestinians were facing in Gaza Strip and what the occupation forces were doing in terms of oppressive policies and procedures. The delegation praised Egypt's role in working towards Palestinian unity, welcoming Egypt's decision on the opening of the border crossing. The Palestinian officials also called on the opening of the crossing on a permanent basis to lessen the suffering of the Palestinian people. Cairo has upgraded its relationship with Jihad movement, a competitor of Hamas, since the Israeli assault on Gaza Strip in 2014. Cairo mediated a ceasefire at the time between Israel and Palestinians through direct talks with Jihad and not Hamas. Last May, a delegation from the organization conducted talks with Egyptian General Intelligence officials on reconciliation efforts among various rival Palestinian factions. A general conference of all factions was to be held in Cairo within a month of the May visit to announce the completion of reconciliation talks between all three movements, yet it was never held. Relations between Fatah and Hamas, the two leading Palestinian factions, have been strained since the two groups faced off in violent clashes in Gaza in 2005, following Hamas' victory in Palestinian general election the same year. Since then, Hamas has ruled the Gaza Strip, while Fatah, which is backed by various Arab and Western governments, has controlled the occupied West Bank. Israel has maintained an air-sea ground siege of the Gaza Strip since 2006 to isolate Hamas. Cairo has maintained an affirmative sponsorship of the peace process, with President Sisi making a call in early May calling for Palestinian reconciliation. Sisi addressed Palestinian and Israeli leaders, stressing that peace, prosperity and cooperation would only take place if both parties are able to reach a two-state solution. The address was welcomed by Israel, Hamas and Fatah.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV. For ads on Nile TV, Egyptian Radio and Television Union, the economic sector, info@nileinternational.net, or call us on the following numbers.
البلد دي كل واحد يشتغل بضمير.
كلنا نشتغل، احنا نغير نفسنا بس.
الناس تعامل ضميرها وتعامل مرضي الله.
الناس تبقى كويسه مع بعضيها.
هيبقوا كويسين الناس.
كلنا خير ومصر كلها خير.
هي ام الدنيا، الشعب المصري ده طيب.
لو كل واحد ابتدى بس بنفسه البلد هتتصلح.
كل واحد يعمل ربنا ضميره. الناس تبقى حلوه كده مع الناس.
لازم اخلاق الناس تبقى كويسه.
نحب بعض، الاحترام،
ضماير الناس،
الاخلاق بس.
ان شاء الله ينصلح حالنا بقى.
نتقبل اراء بعض. هي الديمقراطيه، هي الديمقراطيه.
Egypt's culture has thousands of years of recorded history. In every major city, you'll find traditions that remain from the time of the pharaohs. Cruising on the Nile, Ramadan in Egypt, Eid, and also shopping. Have a different flavor. Explore Egypt on Nile TV International. Explore Egypt. From Cairo to Alexandria, Sharm el-Sheikh to Hurghada. Try to discern the mystery of the Sphinx. Meditate on the symmetry of the pyramids. Explore incredible marine life in Marsa Alam. Safaris into the desert of South Sinai. Relax with a view of the Nile. Explore Egypt on Nile TV International.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome here in the studio Ambassador Adel Adawi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Also a pleasure having Ambassador Hamdi Saleh, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Always a pleasure.
Delight.
Ambassador Adel, let me start off by asking you about how you view the recent development with regards to the Palestinian cause.
I think it is not moving. It is still as it was before.
Right.
Unfortunately, the Palestinians, they lost a lot of time just trying to improve their situation, but they still as they were many years ago. And this is a major problem. They have to be very careful about that. They have to work very hard to solve the problem. They have, first of all, they have to be united. The most important thing is that they have to be united so they can deal with the Israelis, they can express their ideas to other countries. And they will not be able to do that while they are confronting each other.
Right. What do you think is going to take them? I mean, obviously Egypt has announced an initiative to get the factions talking once again, or some sort of reconciliation going on. But what do you think it's really going to take for them to start really agreeing and having one vision with regards to the Palestinian cause?
I think now Egypt can play a major role. And I think this is a very good chance that the Palestinians, they have to understand that, and they have to work very hard to cooperate with the Egyptian authority, to deal, to find a way how to find a solution to the problem, because this is the most old and ancient problem on earth now. And it is every moment the Israelis, they gain something on the ground. And this is very sad. And I think there is a very, very good chance now with the position of Egypt, with the Egyptian initiative. They found this is a very good opportunity that they could deal and understand and see what it could be done.
Right.
Yeah, I think it is very easy. It can be done, but they have to follow the rules, the international rules. They cannot keep what they think about since so many years and try to implement it now. Especially, it shows that it's a major problem because they never succeeded during all these years.
Right.
And I think it's possible.
Well, let me ask Ambassador Hamdi how he sees the current situation when it comes to the Palestinian cause, and what do you think about Egypt's initiative to begin reconciliation talks between the warring factions?
Let me identify three lines. One line is that there is a radical change in regional balance of power, in the foreign policy of the United States, in the foreign policy of Russia. And as a result of that, the balance of power in the region and the world at large is changing radically. To what extent the Palestinians and the leadership, Abu Mazen and others, are realizing that and able to grasp this and to deal with that, this is a question mark. This is the first point, and we'll come back to that. But the second point, we are talking about what is the political process within the Palestinian movement itself which will lead to stability. So Abu Mazen has been there as a leader for a long time. To what extent he has a process where somebody else can come and move on with regard to the leadership with him and maybe later on. The third level is that we have now an interest in the regional powers, the four powers which really had made the initiative, Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, asking that, if you really put your house in order, we will be able to push you.
Right.
They are at the crossroads. As Ambassador Adel Adawi said, the problem has not moved anywhere for the last 2 decades or so. It's now there is a golden opportunity. There is a changing of the balance of power. There is a new perception in American policy, a new perception in the Russian policy. There is the window of opportunity. To what extent you will be able to grasp this window of opportunity and to move on, it's a question mark. So the Egyptian initiative with the four powers or the four parties is an important initiative because it's asking them to really realize that they have a chance, and probably if they can put together a strategy to step by step follow whatever is happening in the region and internationally, and to try to seize the opportunity, I think they can accomplish something.
Right. Your Excellency mentioned, obviously, US and Russian policies changing. How do you see them changing in favor of, perhaps, the Palestinian cause, or do you see them moving towards Israel once again?
They are not moving in favor of the Palestinian issue, no.
Right.
But they are moving in favor of stability in the region, which makes a hell of a difference, because basically what happened, why the Palestinian issue has been marginalized, because there was so many explosive issues in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, and so on, in Iraq, like what Ambassador Adawi said, which really has taken the attention of the world at large away from the Palestinian issue. So if we now have a new strategy by the president-elect in Washington, which are focused on building an alliance with the stable countries, which is Egypt and Jordan and the Gulf, to try to contain the three conflicts which we are talking about, Libya and Syria and Yemen, and to try to establish certain type of stability and the rules of the game. This is a major issue. And now Syria, Russia as well has been doing a lot of effort over there to do apparently there will be some type of cooperation between Washington and Moscow to move on into a strategy which will be clarified later on, very soon.
Right.
This strategy will be implemented. It's about time that the Palestinians will understand what is going on in the international system, what's going on in the regional system, and to search for a role to play, and to what extent within these constraints they can accomplish their own goals.
Right. How can they do that? How important is national reconciliation for the Palestinian cause, Ambassador Hamdi?
This is what you call a question which answers itself.
Right.
Unless they are well organized and they know what they are talking about, they cannot really see the opportunity.
Let me rephrase it. Why do you think the Palestinian factions aren't aware of how important national reconciliation is?
That's a problem. Let me emphasize a very important point.
Right.
What you have in the Palestinian stage is basically a reflection of the balance of power in the region. You have countries like Qatar and so on financing certain factions within the Palestinian. You have countries like Turkey who's really playing the game. You have other countries who are... So in a sense, the balance of power in the region has been leading to this type of fragmentation and fraction between the Palestinian factions and so on. The issue that this balance of power is now changing. Qatar is not going to, no longer going to play that role. Turkey no longer will play that role. So it's about time for the Palestinians to realize that, this game has changed. It's a game changer, what the Americans say. And it's about time for them to think it over. The problem that's one major line. But the second line, the personal conflict between personalities. This is an issue which really is amazing in a country, in a people, within a people who have really what you call a destiny-oriented kind of vision. Right. They should really rise above these personal issues.
If I come back to you, Ambassador Adel, and ask you, obviously last May there was a general conference of all factions that was meant to be held in Cairo to announce the completion of reconciliation talks. However, that never took place. Do you think that this time around each faction will recalculate its position?
I hope so, but I'm not sure that they could come to a conclusion. They have to be serious about that. I think this is a major problem between Hamas and the other factions, and that will, and all the time it used to cause a lot of problems, and because of the difference between Hamas and the organization of the Palestinian group, I think that caused a lot of things, and I don't think the outsiders, they will leave the Palestinians to come to a conclusion. But I think this is time to solve the problem. Otherwise, they will get lost. So they have to find a way out. And the way out, I think, is that one faction has to lead everything. Otherwise, it will be, very, very difficult, and we will be back as normal, and we will lose time, and we will lose all the circumstances which is changing for the Palestinians that they can use and and benefit from it. So I hope they will understand that, and this has to. I think we Egyptians, they have to do a major role to let people understand this is a good chance that they could solve their old problems, and to let people understand what they are, the Palestinians, and they are suffering. But
a lot of people might question Egypt's involvement in reconciliation, because it was obviously mean having to deal with Hamas, and obviously we don't have a very good relationship with this particular group due to its terrorist activities in the country during the Terrorist Brotherhood organization. Now, people would ask, the public would ask, how do you see the future of these reconciliation talks if Hamas is part of it?
This is very difficult also, because how to convince Hamas? Hamas is working with orders from outside, and it depends on what is the major forces, which, if they really want to solve the problem, or they want to keep the problem going on because this benefits other parts. But I think Egypt has to do something, because this is the only major power in the region which can let people come together, or to be united together, despite some differences, because you will not have full agreement between the two factions.
Right.
So we have to find a way out how to let the majority of the Palestinians express their ideas, and to try to find a way out. Otherwise, if we leave it to both sides just to find a way out, it will be very difficult, and no one could convince, because many other parties will not approve that. So,
are there just two sides of, let me ask Ambassador Hamdi, are there just two sides to the story, Ambassador Hamdi, when it comes to Palestinian reconciliation? Because a lot of people, there's been recent, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement also being a third party.
Let me first emphasize one point, that there is some forces in the region, as I said just before, Qatar in particular, is really, is the cause behind this friction among the Palestinians, because they are financing, Hamas, they are financing the jihad and so on. Turkey as well has been playing that game. Now, if they, and as you might know, the President Abu Mazen and other factions went to Qatar last month in order to see what could be done and so on, but it failed. The only force which can really bring a reconciliation and raise the discussion among the Palestinian faction into reason is Egypt.
Right.
It has been in the past, and it will continue to be that way. And as a result of that, I think there is a realization now. They realize that it's about time that they can come to Cairo and to see what could be done. Especially, they understand that Palestinians are not really, they are very astute. They know what's going on, whether it's Hamas, jihadists, or the Fatah.
Right.
They understand that the situation is changing, that Americans are coming. They are coming with a new strategy, that the Russians are now supporting Assad and so on. They are doing this and this. There is a changing in the situation, which they have to take it into consideration. So as a result of that, I think they will come to Cairo, one by one, and with the development in the international system and the regional system, they will understand that there should be a reconciliation and move on to the next step. The problem comes to the point where it's not only the reconciliation, but also a matter of leadership.
Right.
What is the political process which you have in the Palestinian community which can lead to a successor to the leadership now? It's not clear, and it's about time for them to do so. And in any country, Egypt, for example, whatever we have as a problem with the Muslim brothers and so on, but there was a process, a political process.
Right.
Whatever you have in any other country, in Saudi Arabia, in the Gulf, and so there is a political process, but they don't have a political process. It's about time for Abu Mazen and for others, for Dahlan, for everybody, to realize that they have to work together to see what is a peaceful process, not a conflict, in order to be able to represent a nation which has a goal and a cause.
Okay, if you allow me, gentlemen, to take our second report for the evening, which sheds more light on the recent developments in Palestine, which has witnessed a number of protests following the approval of two controversial bills by Israel. Let's take a look.
Hundreds of Palestinian Muslims and Christians in Israel and the occupied Jerusalem West Bank and Gaza Strip demonstrated on Friday against a bill to limit the volume of calls to prayer at mosques and churches in Israel. All Palestinian churches in Nazareth carried the Islamic call for Friday noon prayers for Muslims. In the southern city of Rahat, more than 148 Palestinians held a rally against the government bill, while 500 protested in the north. In Gaza, which has been under an Israeli siege since 2006, hundreds of supporters of the Hamas group that controls the Palestinian territory held a protest march through the Jabalia refugee camp near the enclave's northern border. Yusuf al-Sharifi, a Hamas leader, told the crowd that this unprecedented Zionist decision is an encroachment on the freedom of Muslims. He added that attempts to ban the Azan call to prayer are doomed to fail because of the steadfastness of the Palestinians, reiterating the long-standing Hamas demand that the Palestinian Authority end its security cooperation with Israel. The bill, which passed the Ministerial Committee for Legislation on Sunday, appealed by Health Minister Yaakov Litzman, who demanded another discussion on it before its first parliamentary reading. Litzman, a member of the ultra-Orthodox United Torah Judaism Party, was concerned that the bill could also outlaw the weekly sirens that indicate the beginning of the Sabbath. The bill, drafted by Moti Yogev and supported by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, will now be put on hold until a ministerial committee holds its second vote. It was drafted allegedly in response to noise from mosques, but would in theory apply to all religious institutions. The 1948 Palestinians, the vast majority of them Muslims, suffer from discrimination in all aspects of daily life, including housing and jobs, among other problems. Earlier, Israeli ministers approved draft legislation that would grant legal status to the Israeli outposts on occupied Palestinian land, allowing settlers in the occupied West Bank to remain in homes built on private Palestinian land. Egypt condemned the Israeli bill that would allow legitimization of unauthorized Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. In an official statement by the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Ahmed Abu Zaid expressed Egypt's deep concern that the bill would be a preface to giving legitimacy to settlements. Abu Zaid stressed that the Israeli settlement activities diminishes the chances of successful two-state solution and undermines the peace efforts process. Nabil Abu Rudaina, spokesman for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, said Palestine intends to seek the UN's help to put a halt to Israel's plans. The United States described the Israeli move as an unprecedented and troubling step. France, one of the main sponsors of the peace process, said the action was a matter of deep concern and jeopardized a two-state solution.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Basadev, we've just seen, obviously, two controversial bills. One legitimizing the building of settlements, the other calling for mosques, to silence rather mosques during prayer. How do you see these recent developments when it comes to Israel, Israel's increasingly, if you will, violent and perhaps also discriminatory treatment of Palestinians?
It's very sad, and it's a major problem also. And that means that Israelis, they don't care about the Palestinians. And but this is nothing new. We are get used for that for more than 60 years, and we just condemn and do nothing else to stop all these things. So the only thing is, as I told you before, that we have to realize that things is changing. And we have to utilize the change in the area and the international community so we can find a way out of this. We cannot follow the same policy as before. Otherwise, we are going to lose, and we are going to condemn, and they are gaining on the ground every day.
How can policy change, though, in order?
It's very easy. It's very easy. It's very easy to change, because there is so many. You have to study things and find a way out. But for my own conclusion, I think the best way is to go directly to the public opinion in Israel. You have to convince the Israelis that if we have a Palestinian state next to Israel, that will make more progress to the Israelis and to all the area. And the cooperation between the two countries, it will bring peace to the area and will develop. This is an idea, because you can think of many ways, but from our experience, when, for instance, when late President Sadat went to the parliament in Israel and visited Israel, he went to Jerusalem. The Israelis in the beginning, they thought he is coming and all his people around him will kill all the Israeli leaders on in the airport. So, because there was no confidence. But you have to approach them, to let them understand that they could live in the area and they can establish their own state next to the Palestinians. But
do you think, or let me ask Ambassador Hamdi, do you think that a government under Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, perhaps the most right-wing government, Israeli government to date, do you think that it would ever want a Palestinian state living side by side?
And I want to comment first on the point which you raised with the issue that Israel is now making two bills in order to expand the settlement and to really legitimize some of the old settlement. This is the typical practice of Israel, to seize an opportunity when you have a lame duck administration, the Obama administration, and a new incoming administration which has already pronounced its support for Israel. It is a transition period which what you call political standing from the White House or from the State Department will have an impact on them. So that's a time where they can do whatever they want without any, expecting any pressure from the U.S. Even if there is a pressure from the Obama administration, it's expected that that will be the end of the Obama administration. We'll see what will happen and so on. So they are using this particular, always, whenever there is a transition from an administration to another in the U.S. or a change in the European, mood, or a particular issue, which, terrorism, which happened from the Arab side, they use that right away to move on. This is, as Ambassador Al-Adawi said, this is an expected practice. Right. What is not expected is that the Palestinians and the Arab side is doing very little to do that. And the major issue, and I agree very much with Ambassador Al-Adawi, the major issue is really to work on the Palestinian public, the Israeli public opinion, and the Jewish American public opinion. Right. They have to work on this. These people, the Jewish American public opinion is very much divided between those who support the rightist attitudes of Benjamin Netanyahu and those who are opposed to this. And they wanted really a two-state solution. Very little has been done to mobilize the Jewish community in America to support that, or to mobilize particular support within the public opinion in Israel itself. Right. This would be very effective. But the second thing is to try, as I said, to seize the opportunity of the changing situation in the regional balance of power and in the international balance of power to try to achieve your goals. So apart, it is not the fact that, you have to say Israeli are doing the bad things. They are doing bad things. They are already moving in that direction for a long time. The issue, what is your strategy to contain that and to try to reverse these processes?
Well, that prompts me to ask you, do you think there are those who benefit in the Palestinian ranks from the status quo?
That's a good question, and it's definitely there are some people who are really playing the game of just being there. Right. But that's a minority anyway. The majority of Palestinians definitely are not really happy with this, and the majority of the Arab community is not happy with this. And even in Europe are not really happy with this. The Europeans at large are really supportive of the Palestinian rights and so on, and they are against the settlement. The issue is that you are not using that in the right way. How to mobilize that? And it's a responsibility of the Arab League. It's a responsibility of the Islamic organization. Right. It's the primary responsibility of the Palestinian leadership.
Right. Well, the UN Security Council was one of the cards that the Palestinian Authority said it would use. It would go to the UN Security Council to to ban Israel from implementing such bills. But do you think the UN Security Council has that power?
Well, that's the problem. Yeah. The issue is that, you know, the Arab political thinking has been legalistic for a long time, running after resolutions, and resolution will not be implemented. But the real politics is really to go into the real, what you call centers of power, in the US, in Europe, and even inside Israel, and to try to change their attitude and to make a deal with them.
Right. If I come back to you, Ambassador Adel, obviously there's the issue of the Arab League. Every time a problem arises in the region, one asks, what is happening to the Arab League? Why isn't the Arab League denouncing? Why isn't the Arab League taking action? Why is it not being reinforced by Arab states to become a stronger entity in dealing with regional issues?
Now, the Arab League represents the current situation in the Arab countries. If the Arab countries will ask the Arab League to do anything, I think the Arab League will implement anything, whatever the Arab countries can do. The Arab League, they don't have the influence to create politics. They are just implement what the countries they do. So I think perhaps the Secretary General, he can make things easier for try to get people together. This could be done, of course, and I think he is doing these things nowadays. He is trying to get people closer so he can lead an Arab League which could be more effective. But it's very hard. The first and the most important thing is the Palestinians. If they are really keen to find a way out, they have to do it among themselves so they can force the Arab League and the Arab countries to help them. You know, the Palestinian cause was, you know, #1 cause for so many years. Now it is, you can say it is a little bit you forgot about it.
Indeed.
We have other things. Right. We have in Syria, and Yemen, Libya, and so many of the Arab countries, they forget about the Palestinians. But in any way, despite that, the Palestinians can now, even under the conditions in the Arab countries, they can do something. And I think if the Palestinians will cooperate with Egypt, with the change is going on in the United States and other countries around the world, and use this opportunity to do something that will help in the major problem which all this area is facing and the international community is facing, which is terrorism. Because I believe that the main reason of terrorism is the problem of the Palestinians. They start all these factions which separated from the Hamas and other things. They spread it on all. They were not working in Gaza, for instance, so they start to work in other countries. So I think there is a way that we can, all of us, we can cooperate, so that we can find a way out to the Palestinian question. And as I told you before, this is possible. This is possible if the Palestinians, they are really keen and they are united, and they will go directly to the Israeli public opinion.
Do you think that public opinion really is the only
Yes,
way for
this
the
is the only way. They can
Right.
force Netanyahu, they can force any government. And public opinion, when they believe they can stop anything, they stopped before leaders of Israel to go on with peaceful arrangement. Even they killed the prime minister, mainly reason because of that.
Right.
So really, and from our experience in Egypt, after 73 war, it took a lot of time till when President Sadat went to the Israeli Knesset. And I believe this is one of the major things that makes the Israelis believe that they could have a good peace with Egypt, and that will help bringing peace to all areas. So I think we have to concentrate on that, bringing the Palestinians together and talk directly to the Israeli public opinion. And I think there is a base for that now. We have in Egypt a leadership which is really understand what's going on around in the area and in the international community, and there's a lot of change in the international community, and this is a good chance for the Palestinians and the Israelis to find a way out.
Right. Ambassador Hamdi, if I come back to you obviously again and put to you the question about the Arab League and how it contributes or lacks contribution to the Palestinian cause, and why do you think it is?
Look, the Arab League, as said before, is a reflection of the Arab politics. And since the Arab politics is really in fragmentation, not only because of the fact that you have four Arab countries really in turmoil, but also even there is tension between some of the major Arab countries and so on. So as a result of that, the Arab League will be very constrained in moving anywhere. But at least they can make, what you call a strategy, and put that strategy in front of the Palestinian leadership and in front of the other leaders in the Arab world to say, in this critical time, we are at the crossroads. We are very true. The changing in the international system is tremendous. And you have really to rethink your priorities and to see what you can do. So the Arab League has a responsibility to put together a platform, a strategy in front of these leaders.
Right.
Like any think tanks in America, which really put that. But the second point I wanted to mention, the challenge in front of the Palestinian issue now is different from the challenge 10 years ago. Now it's more difficult. As I said before, there is so many other problems in the Arab world and in the region at large, to start with. But second, because the interference of the regional powers, Turkey and Iran. Iran has been really a major factor in the fragmentation of the Palestinians.
Right.
They have been supporting the certain groups here and there, and Qatar and so on. So the change in the region that is not really very positive for the Palestinian. Right. The change in the international system is not positive for the Palestinian. But they have to think again to put the priority in front of them and to start. But the third point I want to mention, why there is an initiative by the four powers in the Arab world, because they wanted a pragmatic policy, taken by the Palestinians. Right. It's about time. And they assumed that, either Abu Mazen or Dahlan or anybody else, he should adopt a pragmatic attitude towards what's happening and to try to achieve the maximum which you can achieve at this particular point.
Right.
Whether the Palestinians are doing that or not, I don't think they are doing.
Right. But do you think also that well, let's take a look at the French initiative, France's initiative to take part in the Middle East peace process later this year was formally rejected by Israel. Do you think France or Europe, if we're going to be seeing a more pro-Israeli American government, that perhaps Europe can enforce some sort of pressure on Israel?
Let me say that, we cannot say that, the incoming administration is pro-Israel,
right,
100%. No. If they realize what we have been talking for a long time about, that the Palestinian issue is really the source of the friction in the region, and that everything else has been connected to that, if they accept this as an issue, they will work on resolving the Palestinian issue. But they are not really convinced with this. Right. Why? Because they find so many other conflicts in the region. And actually, the most important conflict which they are thinking about now is the Shia-Sunni conflict, not really the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's about time to clear the air and to really present a clear picture of what could be done in the region. The region is really, open to games from everybody.
Right.
It's about time to see what the actors within the region are able to do. And one of the actors are the Palestinians. Unfortunately, they are so fragmented, and they have personal conflicts, and they have no clear vision, and they are just talking about things. The initiative by Egypt to bring some of these jihadists and so on, and Hamas and so on, it's a real effort to bring them into reality. Right. And to see what could be done.
Okay, I thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Ambassador Hamdi Saleh, former Assistant Foreign Minister, it was a pleasure. Also, it was a pleasure having you with us, Ambassador Adel Adawi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much to both of you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for this Daily Debate. And Monam said he joins you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on Nile TV International. From myself, Nancy Sarah Barakat, it's goodbye. Thank you.